Welcome to the Kortex Media Podcast, Marketing Accelerator, your compass for navigating the dynamic world of marketing and business growth. I'm Korson Schmidt, founder of Kortex Media. Our mission is to equip marketing agencies with the custom growth solutions they need to unlock massive revenue increases and scale their business. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today, we're joined by a true leader in the agency world, known for his unique approach to building sustainable growth. Josh Weaver, co-founder of Big Red Jelly, brings nearly a decade of experience in the digital agency world, built on a foundation of business and marketing education. His agency has earned significant accolades, including the Inc. 5000 list, Inc. Regionals, and multiple Netty Award nominations, all while fostering an open book culture and a philosophy of being the best at everything that requires no talent. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Korson. I'm excited to be here. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it. So I think one of the biggest questions that everyone's asking is, how did you guys get the name Big Red Jelly? Because that is such a unique name, and there's got to be a unique story to it. I already know the story, but I just want you to tell the audience how this unique name came to life.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're a branding agency and we help a lot of companies rebrand, sometimes they're new companies. And just before I get into the backstory behind Big Red Jelly, I often give advice to startup founders or business owners. Look, you can either there's two pathways. You can go practical with your name, which there's pros and cons there, right? Josh's Plumbing Co., for example, there's no ambiguity in what I do. Or you can go the fun, ambiguous, creative route. But if you go that route, you got to have a good story. You know what I mean? There's got to be a reason behind it. And so we obviously went down that path. And the short answer is my co-founder and I, when we started Big Red Jelly 8.5 years ago, we knew we wanted to be an efficient, transparent shop. I've worked in creative agencies my entire professional career, some big agencies. I worked with some big brands, some big campaigns, and I learned a lot. But I always felt like there was a lot of fluff. There's a lot of fluff, a lot of inefficiency. And anytime you tag on the word creative or strategy, all of a sudden it's like, confusing and opaque and expensive. And so, long story short, we knew we wanted to start our own agency. We set out to do that. And then, we were in the fun part, right? What's our name? What's our brand? What's our logo? And but that was the ethos that we wanted. That was the core value. We wanted to be efficient and transparent and practical. And long story short, I'm a National Geographic fan. And at that point in time, I got an email from Nat Geo how they just discovered the red jellyfish off the coast of Japan. And it's the world's most efficient animal in terms of the energy it consumes and the energy it puts out into the ocean. And so that fascinated me. And redjelly.com was taken by some foodie blogger in the UK. So we went with bigredjelly.com, and that's been our mascot ever since.
Amazing. I love that story. It's so fun. And that's kind of what you guys do. So if you don't mind kind of diving a little bit more into who you guys are, what you guys do, your core services, and just let the audience know who you guys are.
Yeah, at our core, it's interesting. It's funny because kind of like the cobbler's shoe, where you'd think I would have my elevator pitch locked down, but I feel like it's always changing, and depending on who I talk to, it's different. But I think at our core, we are a branding and growth agency, and I use that word carefully. There's a lot of marketing and advertising agencies out there. We do that, but there are a few things that differentiate us, and we're really good at building brands and kind of understanding what a brand is. And we're really good at business growth. Like, for example, we like to focus on KPIs like your top and bottom line, right? Not just website visitors and leads. If you're going to hire an agency who's going to help you do marketing, advertising, sales enablement, you should want them to be invested in your revenue growth. That's ultimately what you're trying to achieve. So that's really who we are. And we've come a long way over the last 8.5 years in crafting our proven process. That's probably one of our biggest differentiators is our proven process, right? Our tagline is brand, build, grow. Super practical. I think that pairs nicely with a very ambiguous, creative, fun name. And that's high level our proven process, right? We have brand, build, grow, and in each of those phases, we have chapters. In each of those chapters, we have deliverables. In each of those deliverables, we have tools and tactics on how to execute those. And so that's a piece of advice I give a lot of startup founders is if you want to elevate yourself out of commodity land, create a proven process, right? How do you do your job? That's what's going to differentiate you from your competition, oftentimes. So, yeah, at our core, that's who we are, and we're growing really fast, and we've got a great team, and I'm excited.
Amazing. Amazing. Just to, I don't want to, I mean, I'm asking all these questions, but it's just so they can get to know you a little bit more. And you
Yeah.
spoke about the build, brand, grow. Do you mind taking us through, or brand, build, grow, sorry. Do you mind
Yeah.
taking us through
Great.
a quick example on how you guys have helped a specific client in your specific process? Because everyone's process is different, the way
Yeah.
everyone's core values are different, and the way all these companies and people operate are totally different. So you mind taking us
Yeah.
through a case study on how you guys have helped a specific client get the results they
Totally.
came to you guys
Totally.
to get?
Yeah. And that's a good point, Corson. It's like we have a proven process, but I always say this to a potential client. So we've got a process, but the strategy, the design, the execution is 100% custom, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
building a house. It's like, of course, a custom house, right?
Yeah.
Of course, it's going to be a 100% unique floor plan, blueprint, the paint on the walls, the furniture, how it's structured. But the process of building a world-class house is there, and you don't want to
Yeah.
change that process. You know what I mean? You can go down some dangerous roads if you don't follow some form of process. So, and that's a tough battle in the creative and tech space, which is kind of the crossroads in which we play. Because often I think there's this misunderstanding that creatives, in order to be creative, is like I don't have boundaries. I don't need boundaries. I think it's quite the contrary. I think the more boundaries you have, the more it allows you to be creative, right? So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, that's a whole other tangent. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, a client that comes to mind for me is there's a really large construction company here in the United States that reached out to us. And interestingly, when they first reached out to us, it was for basically web development, right? Their website was bad. I'm just going to
Yeah.
say it,
Yeah.
right? And they knew it was which is a common problem. Like they did world class construction work. They
Mm,
built all the Raising Canes. They built a lot of churches and hospitals, just like impeccable work. But their
amazing.
website did not reflect that.
Yeah.
And what's interesting though is when clients come to us and they say, "Hey, we need to obviously update our website. It's bad, blah blah blah." I can almost always reverse engineer the issues to the brand. And so, long story short, I think I spoke to the CEO, I spoke to the CFO, the CMO, and they started to see the light. Like, okay, in order to have a world class online experience, we need world class content. In order to have world class content, we need a world class brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think you can almost always reverse engineer growth symptoms. If you're struggling with revenue, with leads, with conversion rates, with your bottom line, your top line, you can start to reverse engineer. And I almost guarantee there are some cracks in the foundation, and that's the brand. So we took them through our brand build grow process. We didn't change everything, like the logo stayed the same, but there were some slight tweaks. Their internal brand was very convoluted and or missing, right? It's like, who are we as a company?
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you start to talk about that, leadership really starts to buy into that, right? So we took them through brand, we took them through content, took them through build, and now they're in grow and they're killing it. You know what I mean? And that's why I do what I do. I love to see the practical results that manifest themselves after going through a process that
Amazing.
works.
Amazing. That's a great story. And back to what you said, it's the foundation, right? And I feel like a lot of these massive companies lose their foundation because they're so focused on growth and scale and getting leads and getting new clients that they lose their identity. But
Yeah.
you just have to come back down to the foundation on who you are and what your mission is there to do, and you'll build yourself back up. And I feel like that's where a lot of companies lose themselves, right? So
Yeah. Awesome.
it's a great story, and it's great for anyone to hear, whether it's someone just getting started, just a startup, wanting to get their first client, start with the foundation, know why you're here. Exactly bouncing off what you said, and then moving forward. And I mean, it's a crazy world we're living in now as well. So with AI, right? Because we have so many, there's some very, very, very talented AI driven people out there that can use these tools, but they're not going to have the solid foundation brand and the interface of human to human interaction. Like, yes, it's still human to human, but they know how to run tools and use tools to grow companies and market. And the biggest differentiator, in my opinion, in the future is going to be your brand. It's going to be your brand personality, your brand identity, and who you are and what your mission is and what your message is. So bouncing into industry trends now, what is some of the biggest trends you're seeing in the industry? Where do you see the industry going in the future? What's kind of affecting you guys right now as well?
Yeah, I mean, going along with what you were talking about, I think it's on point. AI is the biggest thing, right? I think for a lot of industries, especially in the digital marketing, advertising, and branding space.
Definitely.
And I totally agree with what you just said, which is the way I look at AI and what I evangelize to our people is it's an accelerant, right? Just like any other good technology. I think it's one of the most powerful accelerants we've probably ever seen since the invention of the internet. And what does that mean? I think it's going to emphasize two things. I think number one is, like you said, it's going to level the playing field for a lot of people. And so, okay, how do I now differentiate from my competition now? Right. So I totally agree with, yeah, I think your brand now is more important than ever. How do you highlight human connection? How do you differentiate? How do you personalize? How do you customize? How do you cut through the noise? So that's top of mind for me. And then secondly, yeah, with AI and with kind of technology accelerants in general, the more that people adopt this technology, I think it's going to put more emphasis on true strategy and true creative, right? And so, yeah, I mean, like, choose any tool, choose any technology. It can do amazing things, but if you are prompting it in the wrong direction, if you've got a
Yeah,
bad strategy from the get-go, you're just going down the wrong path. But you're going to go down the path very fast. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I think that businesses will start to look for agencies and professionals and strategists who are really good at just strategy and true creative, meaning how can I differentiate? What are my strengths? How can I be different? And lean into that.
for sure, for sure. With you guys being that agency that you guys just spoke about, how are you guys leveraging some of these amazing tools that we have at our fingertips now as well? Because, I mean, they are super efficient. They are super helpful as long as you're using them in the right manner, of course. How are you
Yeah.
guys leveraging it to increase your efficiencies, increase the and like back to what you said, right? You guys want to be transparent and efficient. So I'm just
Yeah.
linking it back. How are you guys using it to be more efficient and bigger deal?
Yeah. I mean, we've got several different departments, right? So we have our brand team, build
Mm-hmm.
team, our growth team, we have our sales team, our marketing team, and they're all using AI in different ways. I think the first, you got to crawl, walk, run, I think, in my opinion. And so crawling is using AI to help with the operational minutia in your day to day. So
Mm-hmm.
transcribing video calls, sending follow-up emails, summarizing your notes, automating things. I mean, now there's an AI tool that basically serves as like an AI assistant that can book meetings like a Calendly, but it's active.
Mm-hmm.
Like amazing. You just think about how much time this is saving. But
Yeah.
again, it comes back to that. Okay, I'm saving hours every day of what I used to have to do manually. What am I now going to do with that extra time? And that
Yeah.
I think is beautiful. You know, now it means I have more time to spend on the creative, on the strategy, on the details. So that's the first thing is just operationally. I think we're going to look back even a year from now and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I had to go through my email inbox one by one. Can you believe that? Can you believe we used to do that? You know, I can't believe I used to like use a scheduling tool and had to click on a link and choose a time where now it's just automatically like, I think we're going to look back and just be like, look at how much friction there was that was resolved by AI. But then you start to get into, okay, how do you use AI in the actually executing the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, our web design team will use AI to flesh out sitemap ideas,
Mm-hmm.
right? They'll use AI to put together homepage variations based on the brand guide that we developed. We'll
Yeah.
use AI to create questions to consider to challenge ourselves before a discovery call with a client. Industry research, that's huge. You know what I mean? Like, using AI for research has been a game
Yep.
changer. It's just so much faster. Here's
Yep.
the industry, here's the business size, here's how much revenue they're making, here's the transcription from my sales call. Tell me more about this industry. Tell me the challenges, tell me the pain points, and just puts it all in one, right? Using
Yep.
Gemini deep research for that has been mind blowing. So, and I think we're just scratching the surface. So let's see.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's the beginning of the journey. And back to what you said, right? The efficiencies and the automations saves time in your agency to focus more on the client's results and focus more, especially with you guys doing brand deep dives. It can take a lot of time to figure out what direction you want to go. But the more time you're focusing on that, the less time it takes to execute, if that makes any sense at all. But in my mind it does. But um
Yeah.
it's going to make our work in the agency world more efficient in the results side of things because we're not focused on having to do these extra little tasks. Now, let's speak about marketing a little bit and the trends as well, because so marketing obviously starts from the foundation of who you are back to the brand again, right? So with marketing, it's a and let's talk more about lead generation because that's one of the big questions I ask on the podcast is what these agencies are using themselves right now. And yes, everyone's going to have their own way of marketing, their own way of having their client acquisition. And it all comes down to your beliefs and your brand as a whole. But right now for Big Red Jelly, what seems to be your guys' go-to for lead generation for the people who are listening to this who are kind of confused on the landscape, on maybe where to go with their lead generation, maybe they're having issues. But what seems to be your guys' go-to, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, no, this is top of mind for me right now, actually. Lead generation is probably a top priority for a lot of people listening.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how do I get more leads, how to get more qualified leads. Um, I mean, we've put a lot of effort into our lead gen, and I generally say, look, there's obviously two types of leads. There's sales generated leads, marketing generated leads, i.e., outbound, and then inbound. And we've got a lot of approaches when it comes to inbound. We've done very well there, luckily. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of marketing agencies that kind of neglect their own marketing, and it's kind of ironic, right? So we focus a lot on our own SEO. We're focusing a lot now on GEO, right? So generative engine optimization. How do you rank and appear in these chats like Gemini and ChatGPT? It's a relatively new frontier, but we're trying to explore that and get better at that. Um, and we focus on all the channels, social media. We're in the B2B space. And so I think generally speaking, people in B2B space, you just need to be on those marketplaces where your customers hang out. So we've really
Yeah.
prioritized these agency vetting platforms like Clutch.co, Design Rush, Good Firms, that kind of thing. Um, so that's all the inbound side. And we get about
Mm-hmm.
60 to 100 qualified inbound leads a month. And so we're really fortunate in that regard, but I'm always trying to improve that. Then there's the outbound side, which I think is where you can get the fastest wins and the biggest wins, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how do you increase your word of mouth referrals instead of just like closing your eyes, crossing your fingers, and hope people recommend you to others? There's a way to influence that, right?
Yeah.
Referral engagement program, strategic partnerships is huge. I've always said that's rocket fuel for any company. If you have the right strategic partners,
Mm-hmm.
client happiness programs, networking. I think coming back to AI, I say this to our biz dev guys all the time. It's becoming such a crowded space, the outbound. Right now, there's AI agents that will do cold calling and emails, and what I think it's going to lead to, we're just getting bombarded by this, so everyone's going to kind of tune out,
Mm-hmm.
right? Apple just came out with that new feature where you have to say what your reason for calling is before it lets the call through. I don't know if people saw
Oh,
that,
really?
but
I haven't even seen that.
yeah, their whole goal is to kind of cut out the spam calls, which are
Hmm.
crazy. I mean, I get an insane amount of calls and texts every day.
Yeah.
It's insane, right? And so I mentioned to our biz dev guys, like, I think more than ever, it's going to be those traditional approaches, networking, going to lunch, handshake, face to face with people is
Yeah.
what people are going to be thirsty for that. So that's what we're prepping for. That's our kind of our high level strategy.
Amazing. I love the insights into it. And we back to what you said, networking, referral base, meeting people. We kind of lost that touch in the
Yeah.
COVID times, right? Like no one could go out, no one could meet. There was no conferences. Everything got pushed online. So people are a lot more comfortable speaking one to one like this. So like you said,
Yeah.
we're going to get back into that human, that personal touch, that personal getting a coffee with someone to have a conversation instead of being
Yeah.
the same as everyone else and getting in front of a screen to have these future conversations. Now, looking forward into the future of Big Red Jelly, what does that look like for you guys, Josh? Because I know you guys are open internally within your agency, which I'd like to dive into that if we have time. But if not, no worries. But what are some of those goals that you guys have, and the vision that you guys have for the future?
Yeah, a big kind of core focus for us is we use the phrase Michelin star. We want to be Michelin star. There's a lot of different types of agencies out there, and listeners can apply this to their own company. And there's no right or wrong answer. But are you going to be the 500 employee agency that does good work but at just enormous volume? That's cool, right? We've
Mm-hmm.
got partners that are in that boat. Or do you want to be more of the boutique, 20 to 30 employees, but they're the best of the best of the best, and you're working with better clients? So that's the path we're going down. Um, and I like that, and again, there's nothing against these kind of bigger agencies, but we're slowly upgrading our pricing. We're refining our proven process each and every month. Our
Mm-hmm.
people get better and better and better. We're huge on recruiting and just having the best possible brand strategists and build strategists. And if you have the right A players and you give them the right proven process, you can't go wrong. You know what I mean? And
For sure.
so that's our vision is Michelin star. We want to be known around the world for what we do.
Amazing. That's awesome. I love the vision behind it, and I love how your whole team knows exactly where you want to go. And we kind of spoke on this earlier in our past conversation, was that a lot of teams and a lot of agencies are misaligned because you have your CEO who has the big North Star, who knows where he wants to take the company, but everyone else is just floating along with them. They have no idea. They're just there to show up for a paycheck, and they don't really care if they get the right results or not because they're just there for a paycheck and moving forward. Where you guys are all open, everyone knows that North Star. Everyone sees the numbers coming in. They know where Josh wants to take the website, so they have a reason to push towards that goal. And if not, Josh, you're going to see that they're not working towards that. They don't want to work towards that goal, and they might get let go. So
Yeah.
I love what you're doing with that aspect of it. How has it
Yeah.
made a difference internally for Big Red Jelly, opening everything up to your employees and having everyone transparent into where the company wants to be in X time?
It's huge, but the mistake I made earlier in Big Red Jelly's history is it's not a good idea if you don't have the right people. In fact, it can
Mm,
actually be quite dangerous. If you're open book or there, I've got some agency partners where they do profit sharing. It's employee owned. I know I have a friend who has an agency like that, which is a really
okay.
interesting exit strategy. So there's a bunch of strategies, but it all comes back to, I take this from the book Good to Great, which really changed how I looked at business. And we had a whole meeting about it. It's like, you got to get the right people on the bus. Like, that's step one. You got to get the right people on the bus, and you might not even know where you're driving the bus, but you're going
Hmm.
to figure it out. But you've got the right people. So you have to have the right seats, and then you have to have the right people in those seats, right?
Yeah.
And I think as a CEO, as a founder, I need to constantly remind myself that that is priority numero uno, is recruiting and developing A-class talent. Um, and then if you have that, then I think and it depends on your culture, but we decided as a company, my co-founder and I were like, we want to be open book. We've got the right people. They're bought in. They know what the vision is. They're on board. We're driving the bus, and let's peel back the curtains and say, here are the financials. And I think it's particularly helpful for smaller companies because what I tell our people here is I say, look, I'm personally interested in you developing and improving because you're 1/30th of this organization. I've worked
Hmm.
in big corporations and you'll work your ass off and you'll look back after 3 years and you didn't move the needle. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so I think it's cool in a smaller company where, no, I work my ass off. I'm actually going to change the trajectory of this company in which I work.
Hmm.
So, with that in mind, we like to be transparent and open book, and we rock and roll.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Um, I love this question because it's for the young marketers, entrepreneurs stepping into this massive industry. What is some of the best advice you have for someone wanting to get started today?
Yeah. There's so much, but if I could, this is the one piece of advice I give. I say picture a Venn diagram. If you're a marketer, this could go for people outside of marketing. Maybe you're a PR person, a copywriter, a graphic designer, salesperson, whatever. We have in our professional development, one of the first things we go over is there's a Venn diagram of 4 circles. There's 4 categories of skill you got to constantly be working on. The first is technical skills. And people get this one wrong. They think, oh, technical, technology, am I kind of good? No, technical means can you do the thing, right? Like
Hmm.
if copywriting, can you do good copywriting? Graphic designer, can you design a logo, right? Salesperson, can you close, right? So can you do the thing, technical skills? Obviously, that's got to be there at some level. Do I think AI is starting to take over a lot of technical skills? Yes, right? The second group is project management. Are you organized, right? Do you get stuff done on time and on scope? That's like I think that's the most undervalued skill, right? We all know that person who's super talented and just have all the gifts, right? Super talented, great technical skills, but they show up late, they forget things, they're disorganized. I can't handle that person, right?
Hmm.
The third category is soft skills. And this is where I see, no offense to the younger generations, but people that are interviewing a lot at Big Red Jelly, amazing portfolio, amazing technical skills. They're organized, they're punctual. Then I hop on a call and it's like I'm talking to an alien. It's like, what are
Yeah.
we doing? You know what I mean? And again, coming back to what you mentioned, I think with AI coming about, it is going to put extra emphasis on your soft skills. And so I tell this to our brand team a lot, for example. I'll say, look, you design a logo, give me the same logo. We'll present the same logo to the same client. My client's going to like it more,
Yeah.
right? Why? Just because I'm going to be able to pitch it better. You know what I mean? It's not good enough to just do the thing and have amazing exit. You got to be able to pitch it. So you got to embrace your inner salesman and therapist, really. And then the fourth category is strategy. And the short definition for that is, can you connect the dots? Can you explain to someone how your copywriting work increases their revenue and increases their profit and helps them achieve their dreams? Anyone can design a logo, but tell me how your logo will provide value to a business in terms of its P&L and balance sheet. Now we're talking, right? That's the difference between a good graphic designer and a great graphic designer. So that's my advice. It's like you got to constantly be working on those 4 areas all the
Yeah.
time.
Amazing. I love that
Yeah.
advice, Josh. Thank you for that. One last thing. Where can people get in contact with you, Josh, if they love your work, if they want to hear more from you, if they want to hear more about Big Red Jelly? Where can people find you and get in contact with you?
Yeah, bigredjelly.com is the best place, and anyone can find me on LinkedIn, Josh Weber, Webber. Find me, connect with me. I love to have just chats like this. Again, that human connection. Love to learn about different companies and different people. So yeah, find me there, website and LinkedIn.
Amazing. Thank you, Josh, for taking the time to join me for this conversation. Much
Thank you. It's
appreciated.
been
We'll
fun.
have to
Yeah,
we'll have to run it back again when we have a little more time, but thank you so much for joining me.
love it. Thank you.